So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. This is our 44th webinar and it is called From Lake to Lifestyle, Exploring the Story and Application of Hydrowood. For those who don't know me, my name is Hamish White. I'm one of the founding directors of Sustainable Builders Alliance and director of Sanctum Homes, and I'll be your host for this evening. In the spirit of reconciliation, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to elders past and present and emerging and extend our, so I think I missed something then, traditional custodian of country throughout Australia and the connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging and extend our respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Today I'm joining this webinar from Wurundjeri land, which is the land around Birrawong in Melbourne. So today's presentation, we are joined by long-term friend of SBA, Julia Hall from Hydrowood, and of course, one of our other founding directors, Jesse Glascott from G-LUX Builders. And I see he's wearing a Native House top, so I'll give Native House a little bit of a plug as well. If you haven't checked it out, I would definitely go and check it out. So there's a cheeky plug for you, Jess.
Thanks, Hamish.
We are going to explore one of Australia's most unique and sustainable timber products. Drawing on both manufacturer and builder perspectives, this session will examine the journey of Hydrowood from submerged Tasmanian forests to finished residential projects and showcase how it is being used in contemporary home construction. Now, of course, today's webinar is brought to you by Hydrowood. Now, I am going to let Julia quickly jump in and tell everyone how they can get in contact with you, and then I'll quickly go through all the other bits and bobs before we start. So how can we get in contact with you, Julia, after you wow them with this amazing product?
When all those orders start flowing in. So Julia Hall, basically email jhall@hydrowood.com.au, or my phone number's at the end as well. I'll put up my contact details at the end. We also obviously have a website, hydrowood.com.au, very, very easy to find, and of course on the socials.
Awesome, thank you. Now, before we get started, I've got to do some boring kind of disclaimers, so bear with me for a second. All content provided by Sustainable Builders Alliance is for general guidance only and should not be relied upon as specific advice. Independent advice and verification should always be sought where required. Views expressed are those of the presenters at the time of publication and may not reflect those of Sustainable Builders Alliance. While every effort is made to ensure accuracy, Sustainable Builders Alliance accepts no responsibility for content that may become outdated or inaccurate over time. Now, today's webinar is obviously about this amazing product, and we're going to be having a presentation from Julia, and then we're going to be hearing from Jesse, who's actually used his product on a couple of his projects. So you get to see some real life applications of it. And of course, there's going to be plenty of time for questions at the end. So I am going to kick over to you now, Julia, and I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, guys. So I'm going to actually take you through the process of how we harvest hydrowood. I know that sounds so strange. We don't normally do that with forestry, but with hydrowood, the story of how we harvest is part of our story. So I'll take you through that. So just as a bit of a background, Hydrowood was founded by David Wise and Andrew Morgan, who saw an opportunity. Dave Wise was literally flying a Cessna over Lake Pyman and thought to himself, I wonder if all of those trees that are sticking out of the water are any good. I wonder if they're useful at all. And turns out they are. There is estimated to be around 370,000 cubic metres of timber in these lakes in Tasmania. And obviously there was just a little bit of a technical problem of how on earth do you get this out of the water. So along came an amazing fellow called Neil Tomlin, who is very good at putting together, bringing together contractors and people who know all about how to get these kinds of things going. So on the screen, what you see is our harvesting barge. And for those of you who have never been into a forestry area, that harvester, so the big yellow harvester there, that is how we harvest even in the forest. But for hydrowood, we had to solve the issue of putting that harvesting head into the water. So that's waterproof from that silvery bit down to the end. And then there's a waterproof chainsaw on the end of it for obvious reasons. And it's on a very large barge, which can then hold the weight. On top of that, we also obviously needed to be able to transport the logs on mini barges back and forwards from the landing to the harvester. And so there is transport barges and a tugboat. Key statistics for anybody that is interested in it. It's 12 meters long, 6 meters wide. It's 1.2 meters deep. Yes, very, very heavy. That barge, and that they're designed to carry around 30 tonne of logs at a time. So around a truckload, basically. After that, the logs actually come to the landing, and the process looks much more like a normal harvesting process. So the log barge, as I said, is around 30 tonne. The tugboat pulls that back to the landing, and then we sort those logs by species and size, and they're stacked ready for the sawmill. They basically go to a green mill where they're then processed. So that's sort of like the little bit of background and how we get the logs in. And I've got a little video to show you of Hydrowood. I still love that video. So that just gives you a little bit of an overview of what we do, and this beautiful, amazing Lake Pyramid where we actually get the resource from the lake. Obviously, after we've been in the green mill, we have to go to air drying the stock. So what you're looking at on the screen at the moment is actually the rough sawn stock that has been racked out so that it can air dry. So you just have to obviously have some airflow through it. The small end sections get dried out for around 6 months and the larger ones around 12 months. So anything really big like a 50 mil, you're looking at a couple of years to dry that out. So you can imagine the time frame from when we're taking a log from the water to when it's getting to you as a finished good is a really, really long time. So we have to make a lot of decisions very early on to get the numbers right. From there, the products go to what's called a dry mill. It's basically where the products get moulded to their final finish. So they do one pass as a skip dress, and then they'll go through and become their final product, whether that's flooring or lining or sometimes cladding, obviously. Now, in Victoria in particular, you have access to stock through Bowens, which makes it really nice and easy. In the other states, I'm currently setting up distribution in New South Wales on the south coast and the Highlands, and in Queensland around Brisbane and the south coast as well. And we have plenty of stock, of course, in Tasmania as well. But if you are after stock and you're not in Victoria, you can feel free to contact us directly. From an environmental point of view, we often get asked, what kind of certification do you have? We actually have responsible wood, which is part of the global PEFC certification. And that's really important because that means that we can offer builders a chain of custody. So what that means is that we know where that log came from, and when that log turns into a finished good, we actually can tell you where exactly that came from, and we can show you that whole chain to the job. One of the things that you guys might be interested in as well is that Responsible Wood recently introduced a project-based chain of custody certification. So if you have a project where you're requiring certification, you can actually have that project certified. There is obviously some paperwork involved in it, but it's really important for making sure that every stick of timber that's going onto your job has been sustainably sourced. If you're looking for Green Star points, with Hydrowood, you can get points for materials and also for innovation. And we're also part of the Australian Timber Flooring Association. So lots of work's gone into that. From a product point of view, I wanted to take you guys through the species, and I never know how much information to give out on this stuff. I'm a timber nut, so I love this stuff, but I will try not to bore you with too many details. Myrtle is very much Hydrowood's hero product, and for those of you that were around in the 80s, we used to use myrtle for sports floors a lot because it's extremely stable. So it's very, very good for flooring and very good for lining, so you don't get those phone calls back. But the thing I love about myrtle the most is the color variation that you get. It is one of the most interesting timbers that we get in the south. So you get reds, you get pale pinks, you get browns coming through it, sometimes black lines, and more recently I actually had some come through that had a bit of a blue hue in it. Just stunning. It is very dense, so 700 kilos per cubic meter, so very, very tough, very good for flooring for that reason. We run the myrtle in a flooring, a lining, and rough sawn skip dress, so also available for joinery, obviously. Hydrowood oak is much more of a traditional kind of colour, obviously, with the light straw to grey hues. Really good density still, and good Yanker rating, so great for flooring. So this one comes in flooring mainly, and you can get it done in lining and also joinery. Celery top pine is really unusual, and Jesse will probably talk about this one when he talks about his native house project. Celery top pine is a class 2 for above ground, so you can literally put these battens or cladding outside and it will last for around that 20 plus years. That's really unusual for southern timbers. Southern timbers tend to be not great to be left outside, which is why we normally have to treat them. The other thing is with celery top pine is the heartwood is actually termite resistant, another very, very unusual thing for southern timbers. So we tend to find celery top pine getting used for exterior applications for that reason. However, I know furniture makers absolutely love it because of its lovely pale colours. Sassafras is very, very unusual, and this is one of my favourite pieces, which is why I use this photo. With sassafras, you actually get white, you get pale yellows, darker yellows, and green hues. And some of you may be aware that you can get black heart sassafras, and that's when you get the black lines coming through the sassy, which is just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, but quite unusual. So it is a very straight, even grain. The density is not so high at 590 kilos. So we tend to use sassafras in joinery. We can use it for lining and wood turning, and obviously you can do steam bending as well, which is a bit unusual. This table was actually sassafras that had been veneered on its edge, and then this is a Brodie Neal project. He wound it round and round and round and round to get this beautiful effect. Blackwood, of course, very traditional. And the blackwood that we get out of the Tassie, out of Lake Pyman, is a lot of rich golden and dark browns. Obviously, the colours you're going to get will depend on the coatings that you use as well. We tend to use this one for joinery. We don't have huge stocks of blackwood, but there's certainly enough. It's got a very good Yanker rating, so at some stage we might introduce it for flooring as well. And of course, the belle of the ball is always Hue and Pine. On the left side, you're actually looking at Benjamin Vasey created this beautiful reception table out of some Hue and Pine. He's based down in Hobart. It's one of the most stunning pieces I've ever seen. So I thought I'd better show you guys that. On the right-hand side is one of our beautiful Hue and Pine slabs that's just been finished. So with Hewen, it is a class 3 for above ground, but it's also suitable for in-ground, not that you would ever use it that way. You get those pale golden tones, the straw kinds of colours coming through. The heartwood is termite resistant, and at Hydrowood, because there's only a very limited supply of Hue and Pine, we actually only sell it in slab form. So if you ever want to know what we've got in stock, basically just email me and I'll send you through what sizes we've got in stock. But it's absolutely stunning as a feature piece, as you can imagine. From a product point of view, one of our focuses is on flooring. So we have myrtle and hydrowood oak in the flooring. And so on the left-hand side, that's actually myrtle and it's been coated with a water-based coating. So you see what happens when you use a water-based coating is that you lose some of the reds, but you enhance the browns. So depending on the look that you're going for will depend on what coating you go for. On the right-hand side, you can see Hydrowood Oak. Again, that's with water-based, so it keeps all of those beautiful straw and grey hues light and bright. You don't get the yellowing off like you would if you used a water-based coating. Sorry, an oil-based coating. Interior lining comes with myrtle, Hydrowood Oak, blackwood, and sassafras. On the left, you're looking at Hydrowood Oak, and on the right, you're actually looking at blackwood. We also do battens or screening in celery top pine and blackwood, and on the left you're looking at Macquarie House. That's actually rough sawn battens, and on the right you're looking at blackwood battens for interior screening. So from a specialty point of view, so things like your joinery sizes, we have celery top pine, blackwood, Hue and Pine, leatherwood, myrtle, and sassafras. On the right-hand side, you're looking at sassafras. I love that. On the left, of course, is Hue and Pine. I'm sure you guys recognize that now. Now, some of the projects, I just thought I'd chuck these up there. These are some of the projects that Hydro would have already done. Hydro would have been harvesting for over 10 years, but very much on a project by project basis. And some of you might be aware that last year was when we started commercially processing. So a lot higher volume. And of course, we've been able to partner with Bowens more recently to get the stock out to the builder world. And Jesse, did you want to jump in to start to talk about your project?
Sure, can do. Thanks, Julia.
No worries.
All right, so this is our Warrandyte project, which it does have a lot of timber already specced up in this project already. The client's a black butt fan, so there was a lot of black butt throughout the project. a lot of black butt veneer in the joinery, but there was some custom furniture going into the project as well. I introduced the client to Hydrowood, and I think instantly she fell in love with the story straight away. She loved the story. Um, and I know that like a lot of clients when they're building a new home, they love things that have stories because, when the house is finished and they're walking their clients through, it's just another part to the story. So obviously reached out to Julia. Julia come to site, brought the samples, showed them all the samples that Julia's gone through tonight, and Myrtle seemed to tick the box. She loved the different coloured tones in the Myrtle. So yeah, it was awesome. We managed to get a couple of vanities, one in each bathroom, some bedside tables, and a desk and some drawers. So it was a fair bit in the end.
That's it.
It was all furniture that had to get custom made by a joiner anyway. So it was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I have to admit, I normally love pairing myrtle with green tones, but the blue tiles, I guess because they have got a bit of green through them, it actually pops so well. I was so happy with how these came out. And Joel Elliott Furniture did an amazing job of pulling these together. So I have actually put his website there as well if anybody wants to use Joel. So this was the other vanity and the bedside table.
Yeah, had some real nice pink tones throughout as well.
Yeah, really unusual. And Jesse, can you remember what he coated them with?
I think he uses Osmo Clear Matte is what
Yeah,
he uses. Yeah.
that makes sense.
Mm.
Something water-based, yeah. Because you just really let the product just does the talking. It's not the coding overcoming or enhancing anything. You just leave it exactly how it is. I love it.
Yeah, the client was stoked with it. So,
Yeah. Did you want to talk about Native House now?
sure, if that's up next, I'll go for it. Yeah.
Certainly is.
Yeah. All right. I guess a native house is, I guess, an initiative that I've sort of been working on the last couple of years. I guess just to keep it brief, it's sort of smaller architectural transportable buildings that we're trying to produce, and we're trying to produce these at an affordable price that still perform well, and using as much local resources, Australian products as possible. So to tick all those boxes is really challenging, but I love a challenge and it's been fun. And this one we're looking at now is our display home, which we managed to get some hydro wood in there as well. So
We did.
yeah.
This all started. Jesse and I were talking about Native House well before I was with Hydrowood. And so I was already aware of the project and loved the idea. And then when I started at Hydrowood, I came and visited Jesse with my samples. Um, and yeah, obviously really excited to get some Hydrowood into the project because it's such a good idea. I have popped one slide in here for you to talk about if you wanted to have a chat about some of the other things that were in there, Jesse.
Cool, all right. So you can see we stick built the first project. We probably are going to panelize the rest of the homes, but just for the display, we stick built it, and we got our hands on the wool insulation that was from Planet Protector Group.
Hmm.
That was pretty cool. I guess it's very similar to the denim insulation. Super dense, um, pretty cool to work with. And yeah, as you can see there, it's you can tell it's just such a superior product.
Hmm.
The the blue stuff, I guess, just to give you a heads up, that's just an XPS installation because we've got a beam behind that, which that's the portion of the double story which gets lifted off, so that building gets transported in two pieces. So we had to obviously get a high density foam in there to give us that insulation. Otherwise, that wouldn't have been there. We would have just used the wool throughout. Yeah, there's a few other sustainable Australian-made stuff within the project, so we might be able to see some more stuff in the rest of it. So this, yeah, so this is on the ground floor. So you can see on the bottom right there is our vanity, and I guess because the vanities at our Warrandyte project came up so good, we're like, oh well, let's just do this again. So we got a myrtle vanity made up by Joel Elliott again. Um, so that's beautiful. And then straight ahead, you can see the battens. So they're the celery top battens. So I said to Julia, I need a batten, but it's got to be black because we've got so much timber inside this house already. I couldn't have another exposed timber element. So we're actually thinking about putting like just steeling because you can see there we've got a steel staircase behind it. But I'm like, no, we'll try and stick to timber. So Julia come up with the celery top. She reckons I reckon they'd come up really good black. So we did actually Julia did half a dozen samples for me. So thank you. That was cool. And then we chose was like a charred stain, I think it was. Um,
Yeah. Was it Intergrain Charred Black?
yes, that's it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So that coating is water based and it's just for upright surfaces, but yeah, obviously no, you don't get the smells and things like that with it. But I think, did you want to talk about the process?
Well, I mean, like I'm a bit skeptical on trying to create something that it's not.
Mm,
And it actually looks kind of charred, really. It's pretty cool. It like it's got that silvery tones to it when the light
mm,
hits it. Obviously, we didn't want to have any horizontal joins in the middle of the screen as well. So the hue and pine was like pretty straight, really. For a batten, it was I think it was like 38 by 45, I think. But I think we ended up ordering 30 battens and about 27 of them were dead straight. So it was pretty good, really. Yeah. And anyway, we came up great. Yeah, I think it was just the two coats of the this charred stain, and in it went. So
yep, that's it. Beautiful.
yeah.
Is there anything else in there that you wanted to talk about?
Um, no, I don't think so. I mean, you can see we've just gone for as much raw sort of materials in there as we can. Um, all the pine that we used for the building was from Timberlink and the ply, Eco Ply, like just everything we could. Obviously, there's certain elements that do come from overseas. Unfortunately, we can't get everything made here in Australia, but we do our best. So, and we obviously trying to support suppliers like you guys and crafted hardwoods, those kind of guys. Yeah.
That's it.
Hmm.
Very good. And so where can people go and visit Native House? Because it's open as a
Yeah, we've got another open day on the 12th of July coming up,
Mhm.
10 to 2, I believe. So it's based out at Dixon's Creek near Yarra Glen. So yeah, just I guess look us up on Instagram and you should be able to see the link there to get the invitation. Yeah.
Perfect. I might have to come and have a look. I haven't been through it yet.
More than
Uh, So on top of that, I thought it was probably everybody's probably going to want to know where can they actually see the products on show. So just to finalize this, Hydro would have a pavilion at the Green Design Show, which is running from the 15th to the 17th of July at Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre. We are Pavilion 2. And we will have celery top pine cladding on the wall, on one wall. We'll also have the battens uncoated on another wall, and we'll have 85 by 15 flooring on a wall at the other end, just so that you can see in what they're going to look like when they're actually installed. We've also got some beautiful furniture that Dan from Bricolage is making. So we'll have a hue and pine low bench seat and some bench seat stooly kind of things in each of the different species. And we've also got a massive hue and pine table, which is essentially a slab. It's 3.4 meters long and 675 millimeters wide. It weighs a ton, and that will be there. And all of those products, so all of those elements will be for sale after the show. Well, I mean, we're pretty much going to put them on sale now, so you guys can have access to them. So that's the Green Design Show. And then we've also got products on display in Circus Studio at Bowen's. So I've just popped the address there for anybody that's not sure where Circus Studio is. It's basically in front of Bowen's in Port Melbourne. So very, very easy. They're open from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, and you can literally wander in. We've got a myrtle floor on show, and upstairs they have the linings and the battens and all of the different products there on show. So hoping to extend that to some of the other Bowen stores as well soon, but that's what we have for the moment. Outside of that, did you have anything else, Jesse, that you wanted to cover off before we go to questions?
No, I know she didn't talk about the leather wood, which I haven't got
Hydrowood, yes.
I haven't got to use that yet, but I reckon that looks really beautiful as well.
It is very beautiful, yes. I know, I've realised I should have put a picture up there.
All right. And
I forgot one.
I like the rough sawn battens, the celery top. I haven't got to use them, but I reckon I'd love to use them.
Yeah. Well, and they're actually in stock at Bowen's. So the flooring, the lining, the battens and the cladding are all in stock at Bowen's. So that's really nice and easy. It's interesting you say that because most of them that we've sold so far have been the dressed. I feel like dressed is a bit of a Victorian thing, but the rough sawn, you're right, look stunning, and they actually grey off really nicely over time. The dressed ones grey off differently, of course.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, we might go to questions, Hamish.
Cool. So I'm going to echo something that Joe has said in the chat. Jesse is probably one of the most humble people that I have met. And having been to his own home in Warrandyte and actually seen this project that was showcased before, an exceptional tradesperson as well. So if you are in the market for something small for your property, I think the native house stuff is a pretty amazing solution. I'm just going to start off a couple of questions, and I'm probably digressing just a tiny bit from the Hydrowood topic, but just because Jesse's caught my attention from the native house. I am curious, have you had Banksia modelled, Jesse, so you know the performance of it?
We have, yeah, we have had it modeled in like 6,500 different scenarios. So we tried to find like the best build up solution where it can fit in all these different orientations and scenes and stuff. And of course, it's not possible to do everywhere. So in the end, we stick to the 140 wall system with, continuous insulation thick in the roof, and then we just add shading and external blinds or some added insulation depending on where it's going. So it's not that everyone can become a passive house. They're all going to be a high performance, and if you're lucky where you put it, it could be certified. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And one last question about native house before I jump onto some Hydrowood stuff. How are you managing the tiles and stuff as you're moving the home? Because obviously there's going to be a little bit of movement in that building.
There is, yeah. We have used a sheet membrane on the wall, which is supposed to be super flexible and stuff. I hope it works. I guess there's a bit of trial and error with that. So we haven't moved it yet, Haim, so I'll let you know.
Awesome. Now, I might kick off a couple of questions, Julia, about the Hydrowood, because I think it's a pretty incredible product. One of the first photos that you shared showed the logging machine with the big sort of grab on the front of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're in a forest scenario, the operator can actually see where they're grabbing. How are they seeing the log in this here? How are they seeing the log under the water? Is there a camera on there?
No, they can't see. They have to feel. So that was one of the really early learnings, was that foresters are great at picking the log and grading a log. They normally grade the log when they're picking it, but they can't go on a boat. They can't be a boat driver. But a boat driver, and I'm sorry, I don't actually know what that's called, but they can
A captain,
learn. What is it?
captain,
Yes,
captain, maybe.
probably. I'm not really
Hmm.
100% sure, but probably. But yeah, so the captain can learn how to harvest. So Dylan, who is our current captain and harvester, he learnt to feel his way down the log and to feel where the right place is to cut it off and all of that sort of stuff. And because he is a captain, he's allowed to drive the boat and the tug and everything else, and he can do all of the maintenance. So that was one of the really early learnings. So essentially what they do is they cut off the top so that craggy bit coming out of the water is no good. It's basically like balsa wood. It just falls apart. So that's useless. So that gets cut off, and then they run down the length of the log as far as they can go. And the deepest we can go at the moment is around, I think it's 20 something meters, because it's obviously beholden to how long that arm is. So typically they're going around, 14 or 15 meters, but they go down as far as they can and cut it off, and they have to drag that log up onto the barge. And you can imagine, because it's full of water, it's really, really heavy when it comes out of the water. So all of that balancing act is why you see all those chains, and why the barge, I think the barge is like 100 ton. Huge. Yeah, but no, to your point,
Wow.
we don't have any, there is no cameras, and they have done testing with some different like GPS for in the water. I'm not sure, sonar, I think it's called. So they have done some testing on that, and we're doing some new testing on sonar that can see through water that's got high turbidity, which is what we're dealing with. The water is literally black. You can't see anything.
Can I ask a question, Hayne?
Um,
Right, for
oh
Julia?
yeah, go for it.
Is it Lucky Dip, Julia, or do they know if there's pockets of celery pine or pockets of
They
Vietnamese
do
beetle?
know. Yeah,
Okay.
so you can actually tell when I can't, so don't ask me, but
Yeah.
they can tell with what's sticking out of the water what type of species it is. Celery top tends to be quite skinny and scraggly. That's the only one I've really heard about. But yeah, Dylan can actually tell what's what when he's looking now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Joe's got a great question here. So, what is the history behind these areas being flooded? So, is this part of the hydro scheme, or
It is, yeah. So in the 80s, they put in the hydroelectric scheme, and a series of dams was created through that. So these were forested valleys, and the trees were all standing, and then obviously that whole valley got flooded to create the dams. So Tassie Hydroelectric actually is the enough electricity for the whole of Tassie and more than they need. So believe it or not, every year Victoria actually buys electricity from Tassie Hydroelectric. That's how much they produce from this. It's very cool. But that is obviously why these trees were standing. And another question I get asked is, why didn't they just take the trees out before they put the dam in? Well, let's think back to the 80s. In the 80s, we never thought that native logging would be a topic that we would close down. And so there was not that foresight to take the logs before, especially with the amount of resource that we have in this country. So they were damned not thinking anything would change. The only logs that were taken in some areas were the hue and pine, because of course hue and pine's always been a high value item.
what was their access like back then? I think I was talking to someone, maybe one of your colleagues at some point a year or two ago, that maybe it was an access issue at the time too. Like they knew that these areas were going to get flooded, but couldn't actually get machinery in there to harvest the trees, so they just turned the tap on and
Yeah.
flooded it.
I heard that with some of the areas as well. I wasn't in forestry back then, so not 100% sure. But I had heard too, like this is pretty rugged terrain, and when you go to Lake Pyman, so Lake Pyman's about, from memory, it was about 4 hours from Launceston to the west. It's a long way and it's a windy dirt track that you're going down. And Pyman's probably one of the easier
Mm.
ones. Neil and I visited Macintosh, and the road was like this, like up and down the hills and all dirt. So, getting if you think about logging trucks and logging equipment, it's quite big equipment. It would have been quite difficult to get it into these areas regardless.
It sort of makes me think to myself, what are the chances of getting a tour down there, Julia? Can we get a SBA tour down and check some of these out? It'd be pretty
I
amazing.
think I think that is an awesome idea.
All right. Well, we got 27 people here. I reckon we could get everyone on board. Jackie's got a question. It's a great question, actually. Are there any other areas throughout Australia that might, I guess, yield a similar result to this?
hmm There certainly are. So we're on Lake Pyman at the moment, and there are other lakes within the Tassie hydroelectric scheme that we haven't gone to yet. So we are looking at other lakes within the scheme at the moment. There's also in New South Wales, there is a hydroelectric scheme, as you guys probably know. And there are other dams around Australia. Essentially, if there is any dammed area where there are species that we can use for specialty timbers, it really needs to be specialty timbers because let's face it, imagine how much that costs to pull all of that out of the water. um, we're not going to get MGP 10 out of the water. But yeah, that's all we're looking for. And this technology is definitely transferable. So even once we get through the 370,000 cubic meters, which is between 35 and 50 years worth of timber in Tassie, we can move this whole infrastructure around Australia and around the world.
So obviously these timbers have been underwater for what, 40 odd years.
40 years, yep.
I'm curious to understand, I guess, the moisture content of the timber, and do you have to let them dry out? I mean, I know you had them stacked on,
hmm
um, I guess, drying racks. Like, have you tested the timbers when they come out of the lake to understand what the moisture content is?
Yeah, they do, but it's like off the charts. Like
Yeah.
you can imagine. So with timber, it's made up of round cells, and those round cells, when you first pull it out of the water, are literally waterlogged. And then over time, so if you just left the log and didn't cut it up, it would still dry out, but it would dry out slowly because the water can only get out the ends of the log. When we cut it into what's called flitch, into that rough sawn timber, it allows the moisture to come out much faster. And so there's danger in that, right? So when we cut it into those rough sawn timbers, if we just left them on the ground somewhere, they would just go into whatever shape that tree was. So they would just go like this. What we do instead is that when we rough saw them, we fillet them, rack them out, and in some cases put weight on top so that they don't move. Hardwood is actually very well behaved if you tell it where you want it to go, but if you don't, it does whatever it wants. It's like a 2-year-old, huh?
I was just about to say it sounds like my 5 and 9 year old.
Yeah.
Um, I've got a heap of questions here, so I'm just going to keep asking them. So I hope people don't mind. I'm curious to understand the comp. I don't even know if this is the right way to describe it, but like obviously, a growing tree is full of sugars and all those kinds of things. What is the composition or the profile of the timber when you drag it out? Like I would imagine that all of those timbers would have, when all the sugars would have come out over the years. Am I right in saying that?
It's a good point. I don't think all the sugars would have come out, but certainly a lot of them would have. One of the things Dave told me really early in the piece was that it's like the cells of the timber have been washed because they've been in the water for 40 years. Because what I wanted to understand is we do get some unusual colors coming through. more so than terrestrial versions of these species. And I guess that's the only reason, the only difference is it's been sitting in water. Interestingly, in the hardwood industry, we actually put all of our logs underwater, but we don't submerge them. What we tend to do is have sprinklers on them, and the sprinklers stop them from drying out too fast or cracking and splitting. So water might, we always think water's not good for timber, but actually water does preserve timber. And this water that these species are in is very low oxygen because it's very high turbidity. So the fact that it's dark and that it's got a lot of silt and sediment in the water actually, in a lot of ways, protects the timber from breaking down.
Like, can I be completely ignorant and just ask, what does turbidity mean?
It's like the dirtiness or the muddiness of the water. It's a cool word, but huh?
Right. So it's got nothing. Right. It's a fantastic word. So is it? So it's not all of the tannins and sugars and stuff coming out of the water. It's just all the runoff from the valleys and hills around. Is that right?
So it's partly that, but it is also the tannins. So the water is full of tannin as well. Yeah. But it's tannin, it's silt, like there's lots of things in that water. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not clear water at all. And all of those things go towards making the oxygen level quite low, which, yeah, I mean, that just goes towards preserving the timber.
So Elizabeth has got a question here. If the logs stayed in the water, would they petrify, or are they partway through the process?
That is a really good question. I don't know the answer to that. That's probably a Mick Lee question. I know if you have a look at the craggy part of the tree that sticks out of the water, that always makes me think of petrification. But those parts of the tree have actually been submerged and then left out in the air, and so those are the ones that sort of get that real grey look about them, like petrified timber. So if you want to send me that question, Hamish, I can ask Mick.
Mhm. I guess just to the point of the part of the trees hanging out of above the waterline there, have you got like an ideal depth below the water that you're targeting, or if it's underwater, it's fine?
I mean, rough and ready, if it's underwater, it's fine. But obviously, if depending on the water line, so you can see on this picture here, see how it's dark on that tree on the right-hand side?
Yeah.
That's probably been underwater and the water's dropped. That is the ideal situation for us because it means we can actually get down further down the log. And the further down the log we can get, the wider end section that we can grab. We never, at no point do we take the root ball or that bottom part. I mean, it's a long way down, as you can imagine. But yeah, the lower we can get, the better. So yeah, that's probably like an ideal situation.
Um, as Chris has got a question here that I was going to ask as well. So, is there wildlife in the lake? Like, is there fish, frogs, tadpoles?
Not a lot. That was one of the things I noticed when I visited the lake was that there wasn't really any bird life, and I thought that's a bit strange. And then I was talking to Dylan about it, who's the harvester, and he said, "Yeah, I don't think too much could live in the water because of that turbidity and the low oxygen level," um, which is really interesting. Yeah. So what's good for preserving timber is not probably good for wildlife
I
living
need
in
to
the
apologize.
water.
I think my internet connection's a bit.
Yeah, you're frozen.
So, Julia, how many years have you
I
got
think
left
my
in this lake,
internet
you reckon?
connections. My internet connection's a bit dodgy. So, if I
I think Jesse's just going to jump in for you, Haim. So on I don't know about Lake Pyman as such, but
that's fine.
in Tassie, we've got between 35 and 50 years left, Jesse.
Okay.
A long time. It'll get us through our careers.
And do you have to leave some logs in the water, or that it's pretty much you can take whatever you want?
It's not about leaving them in the water. So we can't actually physically get any lower than what we can get. So the machinery that we have access to and that technology basically determines where we're able to, how far we can get. Our license is to take the the resource out of the lake. But like I say, we're cutting that off. We're not actually taking the root ball. I always think of the root balls like, so if you think about a lake or a dam that's going up and down, you've got a lot of silt moving around when that's moving. And one of the positives of leaving the root balls there is the root ball will stop that silt from moving around so much. So that's a real positive that we actually leave those there.
Mm. Jackie's got a question here. What kind of environmental study did you have to do?
Oh my gosh. Huge. A lot of ecology. There's actually, I think I can't remember how many pages it is, but we had to do a huge amount of study around the impact to the lake, the wildlife, the trees themselves, the existing structures around it. So yeah, Hydrowood did a huge amount of work around that. I'm sure Hydro Tassie would have had to as well, but certainly Hydrowood definitely did as part of their submission to be allowed to take the logs.
Elizabeth's asked, is there a sort of regeneration plan for the lake once all the timber is hauled out?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would have to find out. I think, yeah, I would have to take that one on notice. I'm
Yep.
not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure about regeneration because it's actually it's not really about regeneration. It's actually because obviously the we were disturbing something that was a forest. It's now a lake. So it's probably a different case of getting it to a level where we could put fish into it and basically start that cycle again from scratch.
Yeah. So I guess Chris has kind of asked, what's the point in leaving that root ball there? Because it's not like the tree's going to grow back.
No, it's not. No, but the root balls are really important. It's the same with if you have a look at all the trees around the edges. The trees around the edges actually stop silt and things coming into the water. And similarly, on the bottom of the lake, they stop the silt from moving around when you've got the lake coming up and down, which happens at different times of the year.
Mm.
Yeah.
Back on home?
Back on. Thanks, mate. It's typical Warrandyte reception. I had to flick over to my phone, so it's nice that you're here today. Um, I've got one final question if no one else has any. Are all the timbers that you're bringing out, because they all seem like quite unique timbers when I hear them. Obviously, I've heard them, a little bit over the last couple of years because as I've kind of looked into hydrowood. Are they all indigenous to the area?
They are. Yeah. So, yeah, all of them. So myrtle, hydrowood oak, celery top pine, blackwood, and myrtle are all species that have grown in that area.
And do you still see those same species in the trees and in the mountains and valleys around the lakes? Yeah.
You do in different levels. So, what's a good example? Celery top pine, from what Dylan has told me, tends to be in like marshy areas, and closer to the bank. So I don't know whether you see a lot of them up the top, but yeah, and I know you definitely see a lot of hydrowood oak as you're going through, on the boat out to get out to the barge. We definitely saw lots of those trees all still standing. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I might wrap up if there's no other questions. So, Julia and Jesse, thank you so much. Julia, do you just maybe want to let everyone know how they can get in contact with you again? Is there a page here
Yep, there
that's
certainly
got all your
is.
details?
And I have one more thing I wanted to talk about. Just
Sure.
to finish it off. So as I mentioned, we're going to be at the Green Design Show in July, 15th to the 17th of July. And we are building the whole entire pavilion to be dismantleable. So it's like a living building project, but in a stand. And so we're offering all of the hydro wood from the pavilion for sale, one off only, 30% off. So there's celery top pine cladding, myrtle flooring, and celery top pine battens. There is also, which is extremely exciting, a hewn pine slab, which is the 3.4 by, it's actually at 1.675 millimeters wide, for 4,000, including GST. So these are very special pricing that we wouldn't normally do, but we would love to see this product go into some homes around Victoria. So if you're interested in that, just flick me an email or give me a call, and you'll be able to pick them up on the 17th of July, or our good friends at Bowen's might let you pick them up from one of their stores. And there is my
Awesome.
details.
There's Julie's details. Now, Jess, I'm going to give you another opportunity to give Native House a plug. I know you're not officially a sponsor of this webinar, but I think you've
Right.
probably earned a free plug with 6 years of volunteering for SBA. So I'm happy to open up the stage right now to let you give the High Native House a little bit of a plug, and if you could just remind everyone when that open house is.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, open day, it's on a Sunday, I believe, which is the 12th of July, and it's from 10 till 2. If you jump on our Instagram, there should be a link there. You can grab a ticket. Obviously, it's for free through Humanitix. Just jump on, log on, and yeah, we'll hopefully see you there. And the display home we are selling soon too. So if you're actually interested, or if you know anyone out there who would think of buying it, obviously it's a model for the Airbnb market, not for permanent residents. But yeah, come and see it and buy it off us. That'd be cool.
Awesome. And you've got a few other floor plans that you're going to be rolling out too, don't you?
We do. Yeah, we've got the single story, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. There is a 2 bedroom, 2 story model as well. I think, maybe in about 12 to 18 months, we might start rolling off some 3 bedroom stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome. Cool. All right, if you guys don't already listen to it, jump on to the Sustainable Wheels Yak podcast on Spotify and Apple Music. Check out all the amazing resources and past webinars and events on www.thesba.com.au. We have a special guest next month. I can't quite yet reveal his name yet, but he's going to be coming on and talking about high performance subfloors and uncoupled slabs. You all know him. He's pretty close to me. You could probably put two and two together, but I'm not yet allowed to say who it is. We're just working out a few bits and bobs, but that's going to be a pretty amazing and really kind of informative way of how this person and myself put our high performance subfloors together. So if you are a designer, a homeowner, or a builder wanting to learn more about that stuff, be sure to tune into that one. Now, I don't know if, and just to give the Mindful Builder a little bit of a plug, we actually had Beck, our COO, on last episode that came out on Monday, and there was actually a discount code for anyone wanting to become a member for Sustainable Builders Alliance. I think the discount code is TMB15, and you get 15% off membership if you quote that code. Jesse and Julia, thank you again so much for coming on today. And Julia, thank you for supporting SBA across all the different things that you've done over the years. I think you've joined us on a number of occasions for a couple of different companies. So, thank you for your support over the years. It really does mean a lot. And hopefully, there's a bunch of people in this webinar today that are going to get in contact and use your timber. I know I'll certainly be knocking on your door to talk about a barn that I'm building here. So I'm sure you can do me a good deal.
Totally.
Thanks,
Awesome.
man.
All right, everybody. Thank you. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
Hey guys. Bye.